I've just returned from an extraordinary journey to Orkney, an adventure filled with history, drama and natural wonder. From ghostly shipwrecks and time-worn houses to immense sea arches, wind-swept seascapes, towering lighthouses and even the magical glow of the Northern Lights. Orkney offered it all. This is the first of 3 videos from my journey, and to kick things off, we'll start with the quieter side of the mainland before heading out to the wilder, more dramatic landscapes that make Orkney so unforgettable. Our first location is the infamous Scapa Flow, famous for the deliberate act of sabotage. On the 21st of June 1919, just a few months after World War I had ended, Admiral Ludwig van Ruyter gave the order to scuttle his German fleet. 52 ships were deliberately sunk in a single day. He'd rather sink his own ships than let them become trophies of war. Most were later salvaged for scrap, but today at least 7 wrecks still rest on the seabed, silent reminders of that extraordinary day. Shipwrecks are next on the agenda. One is a little haunting and the second, well, let's just say it's not the prettiest. I'll give you a quick tour around and show you the shots I managed to capture. Nice and simple from the first location. I've made the boat quite small to take in as much of this scene as I possibly can, but there's not really a great deal going on. The lighting on the boat is terrific, lighting on the background is excellent, but there's just no clouds in the sky or anything. So I've just grabbed what I can really, and the second shot, a bit of a cardinal sin of mine, I've just decided just to zoom into the boat just to show off the boat wreck, because it is quite a nice looking boat wreck, but there's no point trying to take a picture of a scene with a boat wreck in it if the scene looks quite bland. So that's a couple of shots, I'll show you them in a second, but I want to go across and just shoot it nice and low down and straight on. So morning number 2, and we are on South Ronaldsay, probably pronouncing that wrong, and this is Burwick Harbor, the area of Burwick. Again, apologies to any locals if I'm butchering that name. I've had a good look around, I've had the drone up, and there's a few fascinating things I fancy photographing. There's these hexagonal shapes, I think hexagonal or square shapes, that form part of the breakwater, and a few up on the hill there as well that are interesting. So I'm going to go up there and grab a couple of abstract shots. There is a lighthouse out at sea as well that is just delightful. Whether I can put my long lens on and capture a nice image of it from here or not remains to be seen, only because it is super windy. We're sheltered here, but when you want to go up onto the cliff edges, the wind, whew. And there's one last shot which is just aiming down the coastline. So I'm going to grab all those 3 and then head off. So my first shot is of the lighthouse from this elevated area. I've got a bit of a shielding from the wind here as well. I may have mentioned it earlier, but just looking out at the lighthouse, there's got a kick of light on it coming from the left hand side. It looks just incredible. In the distance, that's been lit up ever so slightly as well as mainland Scotland, John O'Groats to be precise, but to the left hand side it's not been lit up very well at the moment, but it's a beautiful island name called Muckle-Skerry. Apologies again for butchering the name for any locals. And I've got a big oil tanker coming across my shot now. That's not spoiling it at all. Just going to grab a couple of shots from here. Let me put you guys in camera just so you can see what I'm looking at. Really simple composition. Bottom left hand side, there's an interest with the rocks there, with a cormorant and other birds currently perched, following the route all the way up to the top right hand side where the land just juts out, and every now and again we get a nice bit of light that lights up the cliff edges here. Nice and simple. Going to grab a normal sped up shot, pretty much as you can see now, and a long exposure as well. I don't want this week to be all about long exposures. Here, for instance, the water is flat calm. There's no white waves. Nothing is crashing. Obviously, throughout the week, I'm sure I'm going to get lots of smashy, crashy waves, and if that's the case, then I'm not just going to be flattening the water out on every shot. But of course, if that's not your bag, if that's not your cup of tea, then don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Just want to finish off by grabbing a couple of abstract pictures from here. I don't want to spend too much time here, but taking abstract pictures, looking for compositions, it teaches you so much about photography. Light, shade, black and white, beautiful, just gorgeous. Honestly, this is this is one of those times when you set aside 5 minutes to grab a picture or two, and an hour later and a few lens changes later, you're still at it. It is so abstract photography, it's so much fun. Just wandering around hunting, looking for shapes and patterns and lighting, and to be fair, 90% of them, maybe 99% you'll chuck away, but every now and again you'll just grab that one gem that makes it all worthwhile. But if you've never tried abstract photography before, give it a go. Oh yeah. That's pretty awesome, that, isn't it? That is a must. Oh, that is sweet. That is so nice. This is the island of Birsay. This is an incredible place. If you've never been here before, there is a causeway that you have to walk across, a bit like Lindisfarne Holy Island. So you're restricted to coming out onto the island during very low tide. So that restricts the length of time we've got to stay here and photograph, which is, well, actually a couple of hours or more than suffice. Now, I'm photographing the lighthouse, and I'm going to photograph the lighthouse from various locations. One straight on, but two from this incredible location right by the edge of the cliff. But I tell you what, when you see these cliff edges here, they're pretty damn scary. A lot of them overhang as well. So from here, left hand side, cliff edge, small bit of the lighthouse, not that it's a particularly big lighthouse anyway, and I've taken a normal shot, and now I'm grabbing a 2-minute exposure just to see if I can create any movement in those clouds. I'm just getting set up to photograph I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but way off in the distance there's a little building. Well, it looks small from here. It's called the Kitchener Memorial, and we're going there later on today. It's a bit of a hike to get there, but we're walking up there to photograph it. But I think it looks pretty cool from here. As we know, photography is all about light and conditions, and at the moment it's pretty much dull as dishwater. I'd rather be here this afternoon when the sun's over here illuminating the rock face, but unfortunately we're going to have to be off the island by then. But in the background we can see the clouds are just starting to disperse ever so slightly, and the light's kicking in. Fingers crossed, we could be in for a pretty special day. Gone for a real minimalistic feel on this shot, and it is so nice. I'm desperately trying not to shoot everything at 2 minutes, but sometimes needs must. That's not too shoddy at all, I tell you. Gonna grab one more from here before I move on, and I've got a bit of an idea. I've only got my 24mm lens with me, but there's some jaggedy, lichen covered rocks just here in front of me, and I think they'd make for a nice foreground interest, except it means I've got to get closer to this cliff edge, and as you saw earlier, some of these cliff edges are overhanging, and you don't actually know from this perspective if you're going to be standing on an overhanging cliff edge or not. But either way, it still looks scary. Right, it just so happens that a 24mm is perfect. I've got pretty much a third of the rocks in the foreground, and in the background, oh, I mean, the cliff edge has no detail on it and it's very minimalistic, but the cloud detail, it's almost, there's a dark ridge of cloud high up, and it's almost forming its own vignette, and it looks stunning. I know the sun has come out and it's lighting up this lichen on the rocks, and it's just glowing. There's a cracking shot here. There's a gap or a crevasse, whatever you call it, in between the two rocks, and with a portrait orientation shooting straight out to sea, it just, I think, is going to look pretty special. But to add obviously a bit of sexiness to the picture, I'm going to include myself right on the far end, as close to the edge as I dare go. Just going to stand there just to add a bit of scale. Right, so the easiest way for this to work is I'm going to film it all so you guys can see it, just in case I do end up in the drink. But I've got my camera all set up. Gaz is on his way. I'm going to throw myself over there. Gaz is going to take a picture, and then we're going to reverse the roles. But I will film it all, just in case. So Gaz has just put his drone up, and he's just whistled me and said that the water's coming over the causeway. So I just had to pack up, and now I'm rushing back.
What time was the tide coming in?
That was stupid. I think it's fair to say I'm going to have to hang my boots up now, and my pants and my socks to get them dry. Now that's what you call an adventure first thing in the morning.